Hi, so welcome to my channel, and I'm making this video as this uh, concept behind that when you are teaching something, you come to learn about that even more. And there's always, which is in modern terms, I think, talk to a dummy concept is that when you talk to a dummy about the things which you have learned, you seem to get store those things into your brain even further, even in a better way. So today morning when I woke up, I really had this question in my mind, and I've been really having a lot of questions in my mind for nowadays since I joined Mountain. And this question was that how does the whole development cycle go on? Now, how does the whole, not just the development cycle, how does the whole development model of software, from starting to beginning and everything, how does it take place, in real world companies when people are making some web app, some feature or whatever, how does that really happen? So that led me to do a little bit of research in my office hours, and I made some notes because I am a noob and I really need to learn a lot of things. So, yeah, I'll get straight to the point. So, software. Whenever a web app or a feature or anything which is being made, for example, company has a client, right? And the client says, "Ki, we want this XYZ thing, and we really want to really want this thing so that we can do these things in a company, or we can do these things with the public which we are facing." And this client gives a lot of requirements to the team, to the software company team. And then the software company team, the job of the software company team is to come up with that product which solves their problems. So this product, now this starts a huge long journey. And what is this journey about? So this journey starts off with probably product manager and business analyst, lead business analyst, and these people have a conversation. The tech lead, these people have a conversation with the client and try to understand their requirements, try to understand their purpose, why they are doing it, and try to understand what kind of user base they are trying to target, what kind of things they are trying to achieve. And they get all those requirements, all those things, and based upon that they do some market research, some market analysis, some user research, what kind of users will use this feature, what kind of users they can attract for using this feature, and a lot of other things right now in the market, who else is doing this and who is doing the best, and how they can improve upon it. So all these things lead to basically you know the start of the project, where they start planning the features, where they start planning the budget. This much money we can use for this project, and this much money we can expend on this project, and what kind of team they need to have, and what kind of estimated timeline they need to set for this project. So all these things happen, and this is the planning phase, and in this they do a lot of this thing also, requirements for the project. In some they do documentation, and they do all kinds of they set up this the project management software Jira, also some like Jira for tracking the project throughout the whole cycle, in an agile cycle mostly. And all these things start taking place, and this is the first thing which usually happens. Then what happens is that this business analyst, these people, all of these people, they get it done. And then next, I think, yeah, but I wrote this somewhere, but yeah, I don't have it right now. Yeah, but basically what happens is they have a whole huge team, and the coding part is only it's a huge part of it, but it's a part of it. And they start with you know doing these developments, whatever procedures, requirements they have, they start giving it to the team, the development team. So this development team now has a lot of developers, front end developers, back end developers, And there's the DevOps team also who set up the CI/CD pipelines and set up the whole continuous deployment and all these things. So there's also what kind of database they need to set up, what. So all these things are come to slowly plan the plan about it. So we'll just focus on the coding part of it. So there are mostly four parts to it: front end, back end, database, and DevOps. So DevOps is basically the overall thing which takes care of the whole continuous deployment and continuous integration of features and everything. And database is the main moolah where you have all the user data, you have all the details related to user products data, you have their all kind of IDs and everything, and you need to set up the database. And then this backend also you need to they also plan what kind of tech stack they need to use: Node.js or something else, or Django. In front end, React, Vue, Angular, and along with TypeScript. So all these things they need to start planning, and they need to also think about where they will host servers, where they need to according to the estimation prices. So all these things overall you can summarize into and also we'll leave the DevOps part because we are not really bothered with it right now. So we'll focus on this front end, back end, and database. So let's go from the back. What's with the database thing? It's a very intriguing thing. It's a lot. It's a huge thing. And you know what? F it if I'm taking a lot of time. I'm doing this for myself. So the database part, what it does is database can be made in several ways. It is basically a storehouse of all kinds of things, storehouse of all kinds of data, and it's raw, and it is usually hosted on some cloud. It is usually hosted on some cloud server using some MongoDB Atlas or it is for AWS EC2 instance, and no, sorry, that is for backend. Yeah, MongoDB Atlas, and there are other, I think, servers for database which are used. It MongoDB creates. It's like MongoDB Atlas, AWS RDS. Yeah, AWS RDS. So yeah, stuff like that for no SQL. For SQL, and for NoSQL, MongoDB Atlas, and there's more. So stuff like that, you need to decide where you need to do for what kind of this thing model you want to choose. If you want to choose a document-based model, or you want to choose a table-based model. So based on that document-based model, collection-based model will most probably require you to. If you want to go ahead, you will take MongoDB. For table based model, you will probably go ahead with PostgreSQL, which is an PostgreSQL, which is an SQL database management system, and MongoDB is a NoSQL database management system. So it's like that. And in both of these things, whether whatever you choose, PostgreSQL is a database management system, MongoDB is the database management system. So this database management system is basically, consider it like a terminal which is there in a physical, consider it like a management system in front of a whole warehouse where it's a huge lot of data is there, and in the terminal you can ask for what kind of data you want, you can put whatever kind of data inside. So that's what the database management system does. It helps in controlling, manipulating, and using CRUD operations directly using SQL to the database. So this is what happens, and this database is usually hosted on some MongoDB Atlas or this thing AWS RDS, relational database system. So it's like that, and there's more depth to it when you try to read up. There's relational database models and there's joins and everything. So that is in depth, but this is a database part. So database is done. How it is connected to the backend? I mean, come on. We'll come to the front end later on, but we know a little bit of the backend. Backend, Node.js. That's the first word which comes into your mind, right? Node.js, backend Node.js. But backend is everything. Backend handles the business logic, how the routes will be, how the routes will, fetch data or send data, or what kind of API endpoints are being accessed by the front end, and lot of things, handling traffic and everything. A lot of things are done in backend only. Backend is like the brains of the whole operation. So in backend is the brains of the operation, right? But it needs to access the data. But that's the thing, it cannot access the database. It cannot access the database. Database can be only accessed by the database administrator or the people related to database team. But then how does the backend get access to database? Backend needs access to database. It is through a secure connection string, which is like a small string which is given by the database, where it's like key, here you go, this is a small key to a very small cabinet in the database, where you can ask for data from my database. You can access my database, but you are not getting full-fledged free access to my database, so that you can, whenever you can walk in and do anything or whatever, you're just getting, it is like a small link to the database. So backend gets that small link to the database, and then what it does is it basically sets up the user schema, and how it will store data to a schema and send it to the database. I don't know if I'm saying things correctly here. Yeah, but 1 second. This one book. This is what Richard Feynman said. When you explain something to someone, you understand more about it. So, user schema. You know what? I have my notes here, so why not just here? Requirement gathering, everything, each entity is turned into model sets. Yeah, you set up schema. Yeah, I was right. You set up schema, rules of structure of how you will receive data and how you will put data and how you will send it. And this part is still a little bit confusing to me. I haven't yet delved into it by myself. So user schema, this part, and then what happens is I think I have written it here also, that you can use SQLize. You can use SQLize with PostgreSQL to get the access to the database and test connections. And same for Mongo. These, by the way, SQLize, Mongoose, these are object relational models. This part is also a little confusing to me. Object relational models and how they work, but they under the hood, they probably work by getting access to the database using the link. It's like complementary key along with the this database link, which together gives you the data connection to the database. And then you basically define the kind of schema you want, and defining the schema part, we do it use SQLize.define username, data type.string, email data.string. So we can define different type of schemas, and then finally use it for a purposes like for example, if you want to create a user.create name and email. So so here you can understand one thing is that when you are updating a data or reading a data, you cannot do it just anywhere randomly. It has to be done in a structured way, and that structure is designed prior to it by making a schema. So that is done in the backend. That is also done in the backend. So once it's done, you can get data, you can send data, and things are going great right now. And yeah, basically Postgres or DB, it's an engine, my MSQL, MongoDB, AWS hosting, create DB. Yeah. So this is the thing, and also the creating the database wala part. I think the DBA people, database administrator people, do it using SQL, push, entering data through CLI and doing lots of stuff with it. There's also a lot of securing the connections and everything. Anyways, the backend part, this is where the backend part basically connects to the whole thing, whole database. Simple, gets the secure string, using ORM, it gets access to the database, starts making a schema, and according to that schema, you can send data or get data from the database. You can't just get it anyway like this. So it's like you're getting a pipe from the database, and from that pipe you're getting data. You're not getting data in any shape like squares, triangles, or any random object like book or a pen drive. You are telling you are putting up a schema, and you're telling this is the filter I'm putting up in the front of the pipe, and this is how I'm getting the data, and this is how. And I think you can make multiple schemas, so you can change that filter and get data in a similar way. So I don't know if I'm wrong or right, but probably this is how it's going on. So backend gets all the data, it sends data, it receives, according to the schema, and again sends data back to the database, sends data to the front end. It does a lot of things. So from what I've done in the backend is that backend does a lot of things like create API endpoints, and these API endpoints can do all kinds of things: post, put, delete, get. These are basically like terminology for doing this CRUD operations over HTTPS protocol. So it creates an API endpoint like something like www.company or company.com/API/users/user ID something. It will give the certain user IDs data. So all these things backend takes care of, and backend sends APIs to the front end, and front end accesses that data using fetch or access, and then stores it in some state, and uses it to manipulate around with the Redux during the user session and send data. So that is Redux basically helps you manage data throughout the whole website. Store data in a not in just some in a single page's state, because when you change this page state, everything re-renders, and the state also you lose access to the state also. So Redux basically helps you with that. So you render stuff with that, and backend basically is the brains, and front end is basically taking care of all that stuff in the front end, which is showing people how awesome a website can be. So now the thing is, how are they really hosted? Now let's again forget the CI/CD part, because I've still not read it yet properly. Now that I know it's not coming right off the top of my mouth. But database, backend, front end, I used to think all in the same place. No, database certainly in a different server, and it is usually a AWS RDS server, or Atlas, MongoDB Atlas server, where the database is hosted, and it can be accessed through some user credentials and something like that. So that is hosted somewhere. The backend is hosted in an AWS EC2 instance, or Railway, or Render, or somewhere, and front end files are hosted in Vercel, Netlify, AWS S3 plus CloudFront. So a lot of things. So all these three things are all these three things are separately hosted in separate places. So why? Because hosting them in the same place, why should we host in the same place? Why not host in the same place? Why not host in the same place? Well, according to the standards, it is not done. I don't know the exact reason, but it is not done. And yeah, so everything is so to maintain for easy maintainability, I think, and so that you don't all the things are, if one server goes down, if the backend goes down, I think you have to make sure that all of these things, so that maintainability, readability, credibility, and a lot of lities. So all these things basically make you. So all understanding all these things has made me more capable towards become full stack developer. Now front end, back end, all these things. Now you're saying ki, okay, so how do I create a project? So creating a project, all these three will be, at least the front end and back end are in the same directory. Database is being made somewhere, and it is being hosted on the server, and entirely I think it's in the cloud, kind of like cloud computing. But you can start the front end and back end locally, and then push it to a GitHub repo or GitLab repo, and then there you go. That's the main remote repository for everyone to, for at least your teammates to access. So that's there, and on that repo you can give the backend repo link and front end repo link and host it on separate sites. But all of these will be in the same repo, in same GitHub or GitLab repo, from where they can where people can access it, other employees can access it. And if you want to make some changes to it as an employee, you probably get access to the GitHub group or GitLab group of the organization. And then you after getting access, you probably in your work laptop you have an SSH key, you have to add it to your GitHub account, and then you get to clone it. When you clone it, it will ask for, it will see if it is a employee work mail and everything. So using the SSH, basically when you create an SSH key, you create it according to your mail, and it creates a public key and a private key. You give the public key to GitHub, and whenever you clone it using that, it will check if the public key is matching with the private key in the system. If it is matching, then probably means yes, you can access it, and you can start working on it. So Git clones it, and then you start working on it, and then you not only that, sometimes what happens is, many in front end team, there will be a sub team which will have access to only few features, and they will work on those few features only. They will be able to push to those features only. And in backend also, there will be a team which might be able to work only on the routes, or work only on the controllers and push only to that. So heavy stuff. But yeah, like different teams get access to different parts of the GitHub repo or GitLab repo, and not everyone can access the whole project. Maybe you can read it, but you cannot write anything to it. So that's how employee workflow works. And yeah, you just clone it, and unless you're the team lead, you're setting up the project, you did Git init, and you made the whole scaffold, and then if you want to like start off the project finally, then you just do Git remote. Yeah, you can do both the things. You can do you can make the repo in GitHub, and you can Git clone it, and then in that you can start making the whole project. Or you can make a project, do Git init, and you add the origin, Git remote add origin using the SSH URL and URI. Is it a URL or a URI? SSH URL, SSH URL or URI. So, and then git push -u means upstream. Whatever you now push will point towards that commit at the end of the day. Git push you origin and main. Yeah, push your whatever you have done, whatever repository you have made in your local file, that will be pushed to that, or the main repo of it will be, main repo, which will probably include everything, will be pushed to the remote repository, and it will have everything. And then you can push your other features also, but you probably don't make any features by that time. You just start the project. So people just start git clone it, and access the branches. And maybe they have access. Maybe they do you get only access to few branches. Do do some get access to only few branches. Few branches. So yeah, then that's what happens. You get access to only few. Maybe if you get to few branches or whatever, then you push those things, and you can pull those things. You can merge those things. You can do a lot of things. You don't have permissions for everything. You can't merge every time. You have to do a merge request, which a GitHub administrator will probably take care of. If you want to pull something, there will be a pull request, which GitHub administrator will probably take care of. So there are a lot of caveats in that also. So this is how the whole project is made. Now my thing is, I have said all of this, and probably I don't know how long I will remember this, but I need to repeat it and try to understand why all of these things are happening. And I do understand all of these things are happening. There are a few questions when you make a web app or a project. Was this the only way? And maybe through years of evolution and evolving of technology, this came up to the most optimal way, making a front end, back end, posting them separately, maybe. But as of now, India is doing this stuff. And yeah, right now I'm also working on Git CLI and Git commands. I'll probably push a video to YouTube on Git CLI and Git commands. So yeah, as of now, that's it. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe.